Hello and welcome to the Satisfactory Report, where we're going to go over all of this week's news and content on the game. That's going to include videos put out by the devs, their interviews in the press, and their comments online, and just generally anywhere we can find some info. I'm also going to be joined later by some other members of the community to discuss what we've learned and speculate a bit. So let's jump right into an overview of what's been put out this week. First off, there was devblog number 1, which was a vehicle highlight put out by Jace. It's actually the first kind of direct in-game gameplay we've seen outside of the trailer. So that was really interesting. He showed us all of the land vehicles in action. So we now know that the tractor, also known as the Sugar Cube by Jace, can be driven by the player and be automated. It's going to be an early game vehicle with a bit of storage space. It's comparatively slow and doesn't handle rough terrain super well. We also saw the truck, which is the tractor's big brother. It's much faster, a lot more powerful, has a lot more storage space, which I'm guessing is going to be its main feature. It can be automated or driven as well. It has a really tight turning circle because of its turning with its rear wheels, and it also has access to the drift feature, which I'll talk about a bit more in a second. Then we saw the Explorer, which is another fast vehicle, much smaller. Looks like it's probably not going to have any storage space, or perhaps a small amount of storage space, but there was no comment on that. But the main benefit of using the Explorer is its cool gripping feature, which allows its wheels to grapple onto terrain, letting you scramble up cliffs and all sorts of things like that. Both the truck and the Explorer have access to this drifting feature that Jace demoed, which essentially looks like a handbrake. He seems to be holding down a key that allows you to slide the vehicles around corners for more control, or probably less control if I'm driving. We also got a demo of the automation feature for the wheeled vehicles, so while holding down the Q key you can see this menu and can choose one of the functions. Essentially it looks like you select start recording and you can drive around and it'll plonk down some waypoints as you travel, and when you tell the vehicle to engage autopilot and you exit the vehicle, it will move directly between all those points. So it doesn't look like it's going to be a perfect recording of your path, it's just going to do the positioning, so you're not going to be able to record very specific stunts, so it won't know the speed they're going at any particular point. However, on the subject of stunts on Discord, Jace did suggest that he's working on some sort of stunt feature. I'm guessing that's going to let you get some extra controls of the vehicle, maybe to allow you to do flips or barrel rolls or something of that nature. Maybe a jump? Hard to say. On Discord, some people were throwing questions Jace's way about vehicle collisions, well automated and things of that nature. So Jace has confirmed that the tractors can drive into each other when they're both automated. However, once they collide, they're just going to reverse and try and move around each other. He also confirmed that players can be run over, which I would have guessed. He said that he got run over several times while recording the video. He didn't say if that's going to kill you or not, but I think we can assume you're going to take some damage doing that. He also got asked if vehicles can be upgraded anyway, and he said that at the moment that is not a feature they have planned. In the video next up, Jace moved on to demo the trains, which a lot of people have been excited about. They're looking pretty cool, but very simple at the moment. It looks as if the way it works is you place down some train station buildings on the track, which are essentially these white signs. They have a name, and they're just a position marker basically. Then in the train you can use the automation menu to tell it which stops you want it to stop at, and for how long. All pretty basic stuff. No word yet on points from the devs yet, so we don't know if you'll be able to have junctions for your train or if they're just going to be stuck on a closed loop. We also got a first look at the game's HUD in this video. So it seems at the moment to just have a few elements. We have the compass at the top, which seems to show nearby vehicles, and also something that looks like a waypoint marker. I don't know if that's something that the players can set or if that's some other feature of the world being indicated to us. We also have a pretty generic looking building hotbar at the bottom, which seems to list buildings and vehicles that the player can select and place. And lastly, there's this tooltip section at the bottom right. I've had a look at it. It seems to have icons for building, demolishing, a flashlight, some sort of message notification, inventory, and a map. There's also some icon that looks to me like a magnifying glass. Not sure what that is. And we also saw the small vehicle HUD that seems to just give you a tooltip for the driving menu and show your fuel. There's a blue bar there that I'm guessing is either a fuel bar or a vehicle health bar. Meanwhile, in the press, Oscar Il-Sen did an interview with TechRaptor. He didn't reveal that much that was new. One thing I was quite disappointed to see is that what we previously thought was some kind of player-controlled drone is actually a dropship. We know that it can't be piloted by the player now, but we don't actually know what its purpose is. He spoke a bit about the survival aspect again, and basically has reiterated that that isn't the game's focus, so you're not going to have to worry about going out for getting food or anything like that. There was also mention of possible console support. He was skeptical about the power on the Nintendo Switch, so unlikely we'll ever see a Nintendo version of the game, but I think they're still open to other consoles later. He also confirmed what a lot of people have guessed about Project Assembly, this end game objective where we have this space elevator that we're building. He's confirmed we are actually going to have to build the space elevator, and then that its purpose is we're going to funnel resources into it to work towards an end game. Don't actually know what we're building with it, but it seems pretty clear we're building something in space. The article also mentioned building placement, and they've said that if you build a foundation, anything you build on it can snap to a grid, so that's awesome to hear. That about wraps up this week's news, so let's bring on our guest and discuss what we've learned. So, hello KillaDrone.
Hey, how's it going, man?
So yeah, interesting thing from this video I found was the tooltip at the bottom right that I know you've noticed as well. What was it you'd seen in there?
Well, I can see that there's, first off, there's a hammer, so I'm assuming that is your build tool. Yeah, then the next one, that looks like a crane with a big wrecking ball on it, so I'm assuming that is like your destruction tool. Yeah, F looks like a flashlight. C looks like some type of plant inspector. I'm assuming that there's gardens because it's like a plant with like a magnifying glass.
Yeah, that's the one I'm kind of most puzzled about. I would guess it must be some sort of inspect. So maybe it's for like scanning things in the world. Maybe that's how you access the scanner. I don't know.
That very well could be. That I didn't think about that. Yeah, very well could be the scanner. That would actually make sense because we've seen them scan mostly plants in all the trailers so far, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you think that letter is?
Yeah, I was wondering. Maybe notifications. Like maybe if one of your vehicles goes off course or something.
Yeah.
They haven't said whether or not the story of this is going to have any character interaction, or if it's going to be quests, or if it's just going to be freeform. But I suppose if it's more of a mission structure, you might get your objectives via that.
Yeah, very well could. I don't know. Then the next one's obviously the inventory, and then the last one's the map.
But it's that magnifying glass thing on C that I'm most curious about.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're actually going to have like plants or something like that. Like, is that to inspect the health of plants? Like the
yeah, could well
like
be.
if they're going to have gardening or something like that.
The other thing I was thinking, because I figure if it was just for the actual scanner tool that we've seen, surely it would just be a picture of that. So I'm kind of wondering if all of these are things you can do with that construction tool that we've seen, because if I remember right in the original trailer, they do some sort of scan with the construction tool.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that could be that function.
Yeah. Then I see, moving on even further, I see the recording and autopilot system.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you can make nodes to like stop, nodes to go, stuff like that. Something like the vehicle knows to stop at that node and have the items taken out before it continues on its path.
That's a good point, actually, because I hadn't considered there must be a way to program the vehicle to stop, or else how would you unload it? How would it load up?
Yeah, because you've seen in the trailer, they're like flying up to one of the stations where it pulls stuff out, like flies up, and the second that it gets there, it like jerks to a stop.
Yeah, certainly on the train, when he shows that later in the video, that can definitely stop for specified amounts of time at each of the stations. He didn't show anything with the wheeled vehicles being able to stop at waypoints, but that seems like it must be a feature they already have. So I would guess when you are going to this edit nodes thing, you'll be able to say, stop at this waypoint for however long. One thing I haven't thought too much about is what's going on in the background.
That's what I'm looking at. I have to say it looks like he's in a creative test mode, so the background is clear.
Yeah, I'm sure as you say, he's just jumped in creative mode. He hasn't built any base in this.
That would mean that there is a confirmed creative mode.
Possibly. I mean, it definitely means that the devs have that capability. It might just be something you do via commands. I don't know whether they would actually add a creative mode or not to the game.
I would like to see a creative mode. I think that would be nice.
Likewise.
It looks like each component of the train also has some type of indicator on the HUD.
Does it? I hadn't noticed that.
Like at 7:05 in the video, he's looking at the caboose, and the caboose is showing on the top HUD.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, you're right. I hadn't noticed that. That's interesting.
I'm assuming that each one of these train pieces are individual pieces, so you can make your train however long that you want.
Yeah, it does look that way. You can also see on his hotbar at the bottom, he's got a separate train, a wagon, and a locomotive.
Yeah, so there's got to be a trade-off here, right? If they have to put something in there to be like, okay, this thing's going to require more power the more carts that you're pulling along.
Either, I guess, it will require more power, or the train will just get slower the more carriages you add to it.
Yeah, that would be cool too. Let's see. I was moving through other parts of the video. He added a duration, I'm assuming, for how long it's going to stop at that station and then continue on.
So this is where I'm thinking you might be right about the nodes for the other vehicles.
Yeah, because they don't have a track, so they have to have nodes that are edited in order to stop, I would imagine. I wonder if you're going to be able to add nodes at any point during your track. What if your structure that's pulling the materials out, what if that's in between two nodes? Can you throw one down in between somehow?
I guess so. I mean, yeah, looking at the self-driving menu for the vehicle.
It's not in that menu, so maybe you have to get out on the ground and mess with the nodes? I don't know.
Possibly, or maybe they're just not done with the UI. They could be adding it later.
Yeah, true.
It's an interesting choice for the UI, where it's one of these radial menus.
I kind of like the radial menu UI, though. I
wonder if this is also hinting at console support, because that's the kind of thing that's great for an analog stick.
Oh, most definitely. I have to say, I know that they're designing this for PC right now. Most games now, especially in the indie world, everybody's trying to build for console for if they ever want to move there. If you're adding a radial menu, I don't see them not looking at the opportunity, porting it over to a console.
Did you see the Tech Raptor article, which is this one? In here, he mentioned something about the Nintendo Switch. Basically, the only comment that Oscar makes is that he doubts the Nintendo Switch would have the power.
So I'm assuming that he's tried the Switch. So I'm assuming, this is just complete conjecture, I'm assuming that they've already tried to do this for Xbox and PlayStation.
It's possible. I mean, I've never done any development in Unreal, but I know that in Unity, it's literally just a case of ticking a box to select that you want to build for Xbox instead of PC. So I would be shocked if they haven't at least put out a really rough experimental build.
I don't know. I feel like if they're going to do that, if they're going to release on the consoles, I hate to say it kind of like this, but I think that they're going to use PC players as the guinea pigs, which I'm completely fine with.
Yeah.
But make sure that they have a good, solid game here after they release the alpha, and then after they fully release the game, then they're probably going to try and pump it to all the consoles. PC gamers are hypercritical, so they will
That's true.
They will have a good game by the time the game is released.
Yeah. To kind of completely change topic, there's another bit near the start of this article. He talks about the ability to build things on a grid-snapped system. Which I'm happy to have that confirmed. It sounds like if you're building on just the normal terrain, it's freeform and not going to snap. But if you build foundations first and build on the foundations, you've got a grid snap.
It looks like they're pulling a little page out of the Arc booklet there. I like that. I feel like the grid's going to make everything look a lot more orderly, which will both be...
Yeah.
It could be a blessing, but it could be a curse as well.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you don't care about the grid, you just won't use it.
But it's nice to have that feature in there for people that want it.
Yeah.
I probably won't be using the grid.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you'll do rough building and like sketching your stuff out without bothering with the grid, but maybe if you're I don't know if compacting things in is going to be an issue in this or not, but if you're trying to build things in a compact way...
I mean, the map's really big, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to use the grid system just because everything looking all blocky, like everything's sectioned off, doesn't exactly look aesthetically pleasing all the time. So
I suspect I'll use it for some things and not for others.
That's probably exactly how I feel as well. Oh, this is an interesting piece. So the article says another item of concern is whether or not you'll have to actually be near your factory for it to work.
Yeah.
So Satisfactory is decently side. The machines will keep chugging along even if you're not around. So everything's loaded all the time. I like that. If everything is loaded all at one time, constantly, first off, you're going to see with lower end computers, there's going to be a gate to get in to play with the game. You're going to have certain system requirements in order to run everything all the time. I'm wondering how they're going to handle that. Like, they could have the parts of your factory working, but everything else around it, like in a stasis.
That sounds like what they've implied. But then again, I guess your vehicles would have to be running
Yeah,
too,
so the tram would have to be there.
Work. I would guess they've probably done some clever optimizations. Again, to mention Factorio, they've done some insane under-the-hood stuff where it simplifies it down to simple lines and just simulates it.
That's still a lot on the back end. Like, if you have a huge factory, that's still a lot on the back end.
It is.
I can see why they say Switch ain't going to be able to handle it. There's no way the Switch is going to have enough RAM in it in order to keep all of that loaded.
At the same time, if you're running on a cheap laptop, you're probably going to struggle. But it really depends how they've handled the optimization. If it's graphics card accelerated, your graphics card will matter a lot. If it's not, and they're managing to run all of the actual factory mechanics on the processor, then I guess just having a modern processor will do it.
I asked them whenever I got my exclusive interview with Jace, I asked him about survival aspect of the game, if we're going to have to eat or drink or anything like that. And he gave me a smart aleck answer where he was like, yeah, you're going to have to drink in order to play the game, otherwise you're going to die.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
I'm like, all right, dude, but you're not telling me anything. So what do you think? Do you think there's going to be
Okay, well, I actually can tell you, because again, in the Tech Raptor interview, Oscar says that you're not going to have to eat food.
You're not going to have to eat food.
Yeah, no food.
Okay, well... that's disappointing to me. Ah, man. I don't know how I feel about that.
To be honest, I'm kind of happy to hear that, because I was never that hyped about the survival aspect of games like this.
Yeah.
From the moment I heard about this game, what dragged me into it was the crazy building stuff. It looks like that's what I want to do with this game.
Yeah, I want to do a lot of crazy building too, but I feel like the exploration is something that I really, really want to get into, and if while you're out exploring, you have to make sure you have food and water and things like that. I don't know. I feel like that makes it a more enjoyable experience for me.
It does sound like they're being very clear that the focus of this game is not a survival.
Yeah, it's not a survival one at all, considering they're not even having things like attack your machines. I wonder how death is going to work, because I didn't see any health bar or anything like that.
Yeah. It's been implied there's vehicle health, and I think that blue bar could be vehicle health, but when he's not in a vehicle, I'm not seeing any sign of a health bar. But I suppose that could be because he has cheat mode on.
Could be because he has cheat mode on, or his camera's covering it up, maybe?
Oh yeah, I suppose it could be under his camera. I wonder if he's intentionally hidden some spoilery thing under his camera.
That would be really trolly.
That would be so Jace, let's be honest.
It would.
Alright, there was one other thing from this Tech Raptor article. They talk about what they're calling the dropship, which, as far as I can tell, they're referring to what people have been calling the drone from the teaser trailer.
Yeah.
What I was really disappointed to see is they're saying that it isn't controllable.
Isn't controllable?
It's not controllable. They say, that's not to say that we'll never see flying vehicles in Satisfactory. They said they would love to put them in the game. Basically, their focus is elsewhere. So that leaves me with the question of if that drone isn't something we can control or program or something, then what the hell is it?
There's still got to be a way to map its flight path or something like that, which I believe Tiny Pirate got an interview. Yeah. And he said that those little light beacons that we saw in the trailer is how we're setting paths for those things, right?
I think that was just a theory of his. I don't think that was ever confirmed. I don't think we actually know what those beacons are for.
Okay. I mean, that was my theory as well, was that those lights would be how you control the dropship. It would make sense then that you can have lights that you can go and stick down in the ground every stop that you need, and then this thing can just kind of path its way to those different pylons.
It could also be that literally you place down what I was referring to on the wiki as loading pads, which is the thing you see it dock with in the trailer. It could just be that you stick those down and then kind of like the train's interface, you just tell it which pads you want it to move between and how long to stop.
Yeah, that could be, because this thing's going to fly, so I'm assuming that its hitbox is going to be above anything in the world and just go from point to point directly.
But then again, with the vertical building in this game, I can see that being a problem, because you could build something over the top of it. So I don't know. My other kind of guess theory as to what it might be is I was thinking it could literally be that you place this loading pad built-in, and that's like a drop site, and maybe Fix It are sending you shipments of something, and that's what the drone is.
So are you saying like having you like make a pad for the drop ship, then like Earth or wherever Fix It is from just randomly gives you materials?
Yeah, and like maybe you never have control or ownership of the dropship at all.
That would be really interesting. I would love to see that if that's a thing. It looks like they didn't show anything in this trailer that they didn't mean to show though, which is a little bit annoying.
The only thing actually that I know he didn't mean to show us is the fact that the train is electric. Because later when people were bombarding him with questions on Discord, someone asked him what fuel source does the train have, and he was like, I'm not saying. When he enters the train in this video, a little tooltip comes up saying press E to enter electric locomotive.
Okay.
So we know it's an electric train. Pretty sure the other vehicles we've seen are running on some sort of fuel. So it may be that the train is super late game because it's going to be easy to automate for that reason. Anything else that you can think of?
Not really. I mean, unless you want to talk about the lack of aquatic life.
I think we kind of have to mention that, don't we? So, Jace, if you're watching, please can you confirm the goddammit aquatic shit expansion as the first expansion for Satisfactory?
Yes, we need an aquatic expansion. First thing, I need that confirmed.
Alright, well, shall we leave it there then?
Yes, that is perfectly fine.
Alright, cheers. Well, thank you very much for that, and I'll probably see you in a future episode of this.